And we are now live. So howdy, howdy, howdy. Those of you viewing this particular video after the fact, please bear with us as we get out our links and stuff like that so people can watch us. But you should know the deal, the shtick at this point.
It hasn't changed, just the topic.
Just the topic, yeah, that's all it is. So I'm trying to figure out where everything is. I'm trying to mute myself so I don't double up on sound. So, but yeah, I'm pretty excited about the about moving forward with Comic Addiction. What I told my son a couple hours ago, or not even that, probably like an hour ago when we were eating dinner, that we were going to be doing Comic Addiction. He was like, "Oh, so now that y'all can talk about more stuff." I was like, "Exactly.
That's it.
You understand." So,
because hell knows we read more stuff.
Well, yeah, and that's that's
so
the thing. Gives us that opportunity. Let's see. Hey, folks, I'm tweeting this just from Chris Barton.
Okay.
So let's say, hey, folks, we're live on you. Whoops, if I can spell. It's this microphone that's here on my right-hand side. I'm trying to. My desk is all jacked up. I still can't get it really because having to take everything back to the office. It's still like trying to get comfortable, and it's still just totally jacked up. Let's see. Comic Addiction, episode 138. And join chat and the show. Boom. There you go. And actually, I'll get over on Comic Addiction's Twitter feed. Skip for now. And then send this out. Oh my gosh. Chris Barton follows Comic Addiction. Oh wow. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, I'm not even going to entertain that.
All right, there we go. Sweet. Good stuff. Let me get off of YouTube now. Sweet. Good times. All right. Get a little hydrated here. Unfortunately, yesterday I did nothing but drink like 7 cups of coffee and no water.
Ooh, yeah.
My heart was about to come through my chest.
Did you tweet Comic Addiction? I didn't see it.
Oh, I forgot to actually tweet at Comic Addiction. Oh. Dagnabbit.
I saw yours because I'm like, what?
I retweeted my tweet with Comic Addiction.
Okay.
But I did forget to actually put Comic Addiction as a Twitter handle. So, but all right, good stuff. So hopefully folks will check that out and they'll come strolling in. We can get started here and give me 1 second, get all my stuff situated on my screen because it's a completely different beast now than before.
Are you going to watch the Forbidden Door Sunday?
I would really like to. Karen will be getting back from Florida that evening, so
you have what, a month to pay for it and watch it, right? Isn't that
yeah, something like that.
Pay-per-views usually step.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is because I just saw. I don't know if you've been following AEW, but over the last month, like people
they've been slowly
like
coming
flies.
in. Yeah,
they've been getting hurt.
Oh yeah. Didn't Brian Daniels or yeah?
Yes, he announced Wednesday that he was hurt, and I think his issue is that he probably has a concussion because he doesn't seem hurt, but he's not cleared to travel. And if they're traveling, chances are it's going to be by plane. And I figure that would be the only thing. If he twisted his ankle, he would be cleared to travel, but he just wouldn't. But that new Atlantic belt has a New Japan Pro entrant in one of the 4 brackets.
Okay.
The match to determine that was New Japan Pro's Strong Show, I think, last night. The winner got hurt.
Oh.
Ishii got hurt. So the person he wrestled is who's going to come in, and his name was like Chuck Connor or something like that.
Is that who's going to take on Jack Sabre?
Because
wasn't Danielson taking on Sabre?
Well, I never saw that he was supposed to take on anybody per se.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Now things were kind of lining up that way, but
because I'd seen something today something today or yesterday that was talking about. It had to have been today because I hadn't paid attention until today, but said that Danielson was going to be out. I didn't know why. He just said he wasn't going to be wrestling, and that he and Jack Sabre were supposed to wrestle.
Okay.
And so they were speculating that this would be the debut of Claudio Casanelli,
right?
To be at AEW, and I'm like, maybe.
Yeah. Since they announced that Forbidden Door, I think like 2/3 of the matches have had to change.
Jeez.
So, and then you have this past what was it, Sunday, the big AAA Tijuana match. Jeff Hardy was not there, so Matt was there,
right?
And they were main eventing it, so Matt was there, and Johnny Caballero, aka Johnny Hardy, filled in, and he healed it up, man, to where Jeff turned on him after the match. Nice. Matt turned on him after the match.
Yeah.
And after Johnny left, there was a segment that wasn't broadcast, but where Matt Hardy apologized for Jeff not being there and congratulated the 2 that wrestled and thanked the crowds and did all this kind of stuff. And it's just the past month for AEW.
It's been rough.
People have, it's just been,
Hey, Doug, we hadn't been ignoring you. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Doug. I'm talking wrestling. I'm getting into wrestling more and more, so I like talking more and more. But I don't want to show about it.
We've got Forbidden Door this weekend. We've got Money in the Bank next weekend if you're a WWE fan.
We got Blood and Guts next week also for AEW.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on there. Yeah.
Doug, I think my wife and I are going to trip it down Sunday. We live about 3 hours away, so we're going to make a full day of it and come down on Sunday.
And you're going to do all that one day? Well, if you're only 3 hours away, that's the thing. For me, from my house to Charlotte now, and I'm in the same state, is probably 3 hours.
Yeah.
So when you said that just a second, I was like, no way. I'm like, oh, maybe. Yeah.
Well, and what it is previously we had one older cat that we could leave for 3 days and she would be fine. Now we have 2 younger cats that I don't necessarily trust to be on their own that long.
Yeah.
So, now back when I was younger, I was known to go down there 2 days in a row and travel it back and forth 2 days. But
wow.
No.
Charlie did that one time by himself, not with John, because in the past the 2 of them had traveled together and they'd stayed all weekend. He messaged me like a Thursday of the con or whatever, or even Friday. It was like, hey, you gonna be there Saturday? I'm like, yeah, I guess. I think I was gonna be there that weekend, the whole weekend. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna drive down there. I was like, for the day. Like he drew. I was like, you're insane.
It's a full day for sure. Although Sunday, I mean, they're only open 6 hours.
Yeah.
6 hours, something like that. So,
I hate that I can't go. It's just it doesn't matter when the con falls. I make plans to go every year. Well, obviously not the last couple of years. I haven't had it, but the last few years I've made plans to go, and it seems like an injury of an AEW level, happens like, some like this year is the well broke at my house, and so I lost water and so we had to get the well fixed or well
Yikes.
pump fixed. It's that kind of thing. So it's like, it's a thing. As much as I would like to go down there, I know a lot of people who are deciding. When you mentioned to me that you were going, I was like, sweet. I wish I was going. Doug's gonna be there Friday and Saturday. Cool. Those are good days. I mean, Friday's always, I think, is a good day because there's a sort of hyped up energy, but Sunday's always a good day too.
Well, the reason we picked Sunday is because we're still kind of COVID hesitant, and I figure Friday will be slammed because it's the first day, and I figure Saturday will be slammed because it's Saturday. Sunday probably will be too, but of the 3 days, I figure it's always traditionally the least attended day, so I figured it would this year. So
the times that I've gone down there, and I used to go from the very first year that I went. I think I went like every year for like, I don't know, 10 years or whatever. But I'd go for all 3 days, but it was always Sunday that I enjoyed the most for shopping. And that's kind of where I got. And I don't know if you've never walked around with me, but I know John Wimmer and Charlie have walked around with me. When we were there for Saturday and Sunday, I sort of don't buy much on Saturdays. I'll sort of use it to peruse, and then use Sunday to go around and actually sell stuff. Because you can, if you're doing it from going to a retailer or something like that, you can get to the boxes easier.
Yep. Not only that, but Sunday is come on, I don't want to take all this shit back with me day.
Oh,
so it's
yeah.
We know we up until the pandemic, we had been, Terry and I, for the past probably 10 years or so, all 3 days we would get a hotel and stay. We would do this part on Friday and we do that part on Saturday, and we do most of our shopping on Sunday.
Yep, it's good stuff. I remember the first time I went down there, the guys that I went with, they they had sort of showed me the ropes. They had been several times. But one guy, I can't remember if he actually had no issues of Fantastic Four, like in his collection when he got there, but he walked out of there with like 2 long boxes. Nice. And that was before I got married. So that was like 96, 97.
That's some shopping now.
Oh, it was like Friday night. We came in to the hotel, because we'd go down there, hang out as a group, and then we'd kind of all split up and come back and eat dinner or whatever. But I remember one of those nights, Friday or Saturday night, being in the hotel room, kind of put my stuff up, and he comes in there with the big, chugging in this big long box, and just sort of dumped it, like put it on the bed and just sort of tilted it over. He's like, "This is all Fantastic Four."
Nice.
We're like, goodness. So I was like, I need to shop like you do from now on.
Yeah, really.
Oh, but it was good stuff. We had a good time. That was I've always had, every year I've gone, there's been some little adventure, some little memory that's always been made. So it's always been super cool to go. So the one time I met Stan Lee, well, I didn't meet him. Kind of. He waved to us. John and Charlie and I are sitting at one of the tables when they were doing like Terry, like your Thor Hall.
Yeah, we did that in Huntington. We had decided to start collecting Thor because we were doing the podcast.
Yeah,
and went down there and left with a full long box of books that we didn't have. Yeah, I was looking and going through, and finally I'm like, "How much for the box?" And he's like,
"Yeah,
the whole box." I said, "Yeah, all of it." He's like, I was like, done.
Yeah. So Doug, this will be your first time going. That's pretty exciting.
All right.
40th anniversary too of Heroes Con. So
yep.
This will be a big one. They'll be pulling out all the stops. The guest list is quite lengthy. I keep up with
it. Did I see, and I may be misthinking this, but I know that I saw that somebody was going to be there for the first time. Is that JRJR that is there for the first time?
Oh, I don't know if he's there for the first time. but I don't remember him being there before.
He's there, and somebody I thought was just way too big to be the first time, but this is going to be their first time there.
That's a good one to see, though.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people that haven't been there in a while, or whatever. My personal holy grail is Stan Sakai. I've only seen him once, and that was what 2019, 2018, whenever that was.
Yeah.
I never seemed to hook up the other times that he was there, if it has been since I have been going. I mean, I know he's been going since the late 90s on and off. So, but yeah, he's the only person, Terry and I were talking about this last night. He's the only person that I would go and stand in line for. Otherwise, I don't care. It's like, oh, they're there. Cool. Yeah, their line's over there. You can go over there and say, yeah.
I did see that Palmiotti and Amanda Connor will be there. They hadn't been there in a long time. And they're two of the folks that you know me. I love their stuff. I mean, I've collected their stuff for years, and when I saw that they were going to be there, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to, I was just like, dang it.
And that's interesting because they just live down in Florida, don't they?
Yeah, they're at MegaCon all the time, but yeah, they don't do a lot of cons these days. I mean, they've got their like 5 or 6 that they do. But that's all they do. And especially with COVID, I mean, I think that was a big thing for them.
I'm not, from now on, I'm not going to fuss at anybody about, why don't you get out anymore? It's like, well, because you could die. That's why,
That's the thing.
Oh, I'll stay in my house and I'll do this online. That's what it'll be. We'll do online con. There we go.
The thing is, you were talking about standing in line for folks. There's not been, the only person that I've stood in line for, and it's not because I didn't want to stand in line for other folks, is that there's always, regardless of who it is, there's always, I say a line. For me, a line, if I wait in line, it's more than 10 or 15 minutes. If it's just like, oh, there's 2 or 3 people and then they move real quick, and that's not a line.
That doesn't count.
But the only person that I've ever stood in line for at Heroes Con was Michael Turner. That was during the time, and this will show my age, when they did the Witchblade Tomb Raider Fathom crossover.
Yes.
And they were promoting that and everything. And so I was, making a point to get because I had all 3 covers, or was going to be buying all 3 covers. I forget what the order was, but getting them signed by him and Silvestri and everybody who was there at the table. So that was my goal. Pretty excited to see some of the people that will be there. One of my good friends has a table. Oh, cool. Awesome. Where's are they an artist or are they a dealer?
Just go ahead and tell us who your friend is, Doug.
Yeah, that's fine. You can.
We won't tell.
You've already got clout here. Don't worry. It's not bragging at this point.
Been watching all the podcast people that I follow talking about being there and all that kind of stuff too.
Well, and I don't know if you remember this, that there was a year that Comic Geek Speak, like we had like a podcast corner kind of like in the back of the convention center.
I remember that. Yeah, that was
because that was the first time I met Daryl. Was it Daryl that I met? No, not Daryl.
That was in the early 10s, wasn't it?
Yeah. But I met a bunch of folks then. I just can't remember who all was there then. But David Finch sat in the booth like literally across from us. And so, and at the time he was a big deal, but like nobody came, I mean, not nobody, but there was no lines.
Right.
And we were like, oh man, he's going to have all these lines. There'll be all these people and, we'll get to see people and this. No.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I mean, we just, we walked over there and chatted with them. And, I talked about Ascension, which is, his Top Cow book from the 90s, and he was like, surprised anybody remember that book. I was like, I'm going to remember it. So. Let's see. Matthew Roberts. He's the artist on Manifest Destiny. Oh, friend of the show, Mike Smith, who used to do the Image Addiction podcast with me. He is a huge fan of Manifest Destiny. So that is a great book. I am sorely behind on that one. I think I stopped reading it around 25, maybe. It was like they took like a huge break, and I just forgot to get back on the book. But Mike, he talks about not talks about it all the time, but I do. He does mention it quite often, when it comes out. So that's pretty cool. That's awesome.
Cool beans. All right.
I guess we should start the show. I mean, I guess we already have.
Go ahead and start it off.
Do the spiel.
I'll say my piece about the switch over, and then we'll move on.
Oh yeah, I guess we do need to kind of clarify that. So, all right, we're about 20 minutes into the show, but let's go ahead and do the intro in 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, welcome to Comic Addiction. This is episode 138, continuation of the adventure that was started back in 2007, I think is what I said.
I think that's what you said.
Yeah, something like that. I did have I don't have I have the date on my calendar, but I don't have the or on my phone, but I don't have the year. But so I am one of your hosts, Chris Barton, and with me as always is Mr. Ed Moore. Ed, how are you?
Pretty good, sir. Pretty good. 2007. That would make Comic Addiction a second/third generation comic book podcast.
Something like that. Yeah.
Around in there.
Somewhere in there.
That qualifies you as OG, man.
OG.
Yeah. I started in 2009, so I'm several generations beyond that. So
such a weird thing to think about.
Well, but it's true. I mean, it's true, especially at the rate that they come out, which I kind of keep up with. Every quarter, there's probably 20 to 30 shows that I've never seen before. I mean, that's how fast they're coming out. Yesterday, just messing around, five shows that had less than 10 episodes that I ran across. I was like, dude.
I mean, that's cool though. Cool.
Oh yeah, it's very cool.
The downside, and so the show started, we'll say, about 15 years ago. And I did do the quick and rough math. If I did 50 episodes a year, which was a little more than we were probably doing, about 45. If we continued to do it, we'd be in the 700 plus range right now as far as episodes go. But if I had done that, then I couldn't have done all the other cool shows that I've been involved with. And so it just is what it is. I had a good time regardless, talking to my friends about comics. So that's the whole point. So, but yeah, so I guess the reason for all this, there's a lot of reasons, and I'll kind of give a little bit of my thought, and then I know Ed's got some words, and then we'll kind of go from there. So this past weekend was the 15th anniversary of Comic Addiction. I have I tried to restart the show right before the pandemic, not because I thought there was going to be a pandemic and I was going to have all the spare time in my life. That's not the case. Just where I feel like everybody on TikTok, you're like, oh, pandemic gave me a reason to get on TikTok and become famous. I did the opposite. I pulled in, and I did not want to do anything. I was like,
retracted.
Yes, that's a good word. So I started to do the show back, and the show is it's had some different iterations, not reiterations, but iterations over the years. And it's been as many as 6 or 7 people on the show at one time to just me. And so it's had quite a life, and I really I just enjoy sort of the freedom that having comic addiction and not just boom addiction or image addiction gives.
Or any single company addiction, Dark Horse addiction. X addiction.
Yep. Although the X addiction, they're now X Nation. They still publish an episode like once a month still, which is great.
Savage Dragon didn't start as addiction, did it?
No.
There's some more though.
The Savage Fincast was already a podcast. There was a stretch there where we were especially during the Image Addiction days, we were trying to sort of create a network of podcasts that we felt really strong about. And really wanted to, not that we were big at that time, but we felt like if more of us got together and kind of did stuff, then I mean, we did host quite a few of them. We didn't host Savage Fincast. Those, like I said, those guys are were already up and running on their own. But that's if even if you're not a Savage Dragon fan, I would highly recommend checking out that show. They still, they still, it's like they took a break. No, they do the show still after all these years, which is great. Eric Larson gets on there every so often, does some interviews and that kind of thing. They just released the Fincast crew, as well as a lot of their contributors and friends.
That book
I forgot. I did have it here in front of me. I may have already filed it away because I already read it. But they did like a fanzine for Savage Dragon, and Image published it. So I mean, they've had a lot of success. So that's cool.
And let me say here before you get too far along. Most of what Chris is talking about, I was not involved with as a host. I was a listener. That's how I have knowledge of these things. I have only been involved in Comic Addiction since Boom Addiction started. So that's what, 6 years, 5 or 6 years, whatever that's been. That's all I've been involved with on this side. Most of my Comic Addiction experience is on your side, Doug and Terry and everyone else out there listening. So
yeah. But but we had The Process, which was a podcast,
right,
which is a great podcast. I don't know if they still have their website up and running, but it was co-hosted by Curtis Weeb, who comic writer. He's doing video game stuff now. I forget who he's doing video games with now, but does video games, story writing and stuff like that for that. Jeremy Holt, who's an Image, who's been published through Image, and then Ryan Lindsay, who has been published through, I think Vault's done this stuff, and he's got something through Image. So a bunch of guys who've done stuff. Their whole thing was the process of becoming a comic book writer. Sort of what they had to go through and everything. And all three of them were coming at it from different perspectives, which was really cool. Great show to listen to if you've ever been kind of curious about that.
Wildstorm Addiction?
Wildstorm Addiction was around.
That was one.
So Joe, I forget whose co-host's name off the top of my head. But Joe and his buddy did that show. There was the Avengeline podcast that I did with Mark Polton and Owen Jenny when Image was doing the new series of Avengeline. It was more of a breakdown of discussion of each issue with when I was on the show, and then the Avengeline podcast became sort of something else a little bit after, because the comic book series got canceled, which was crying shame, because they had a lot of plans for that thing. It was Rob Liefeld blessed and all that. So and then Mark did his own show for a little while. Now he's a very successful Indiegogo comic book writer, publisher now. So I mean, he's I say he's making a lot of money. He's at least publishing a lot of books. I mean, he's got quite a few stuff. And then there's been quite a few others. Yeah, Dark Horse Addiction was in there for a short stretch, and obviously Image Addiction, Boom Addiction, and then you and I had Aftershock, the 10.0 or whatever we call it.
Yep. 10.0, the Aftershock podcast.
Yeah, the short-lived but very exciting show.
The first.
It was the first Aftershock.
Yep. The first. Someone else kind of stole that thunder, but we were the first.
Martin would never steal that from us. But yes,
we were the first.
You're the first, yeah. But yeah, and so there's always been stuff with Comic Addiction. So it's just, it was just time to sort of bring it back. So which means for me, because Ed does a lot of podcasts already. He's a co-host on his own shows. I mean, what do you do? 6, 7, 12 podcasts at this point?
I have the Ronin Rabbit.
Right.
Most of these come out monthly, just once a month. The Ronin Rabbit. I have the Mighty Thorcast. I have Lords of Order, Dr. Fate podcast. I have my newest one, the Newsprint Commando.
Right. Yeah.
This one I co-host. I co-host the Superman Super Show.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it? That's 6. We have been on hiatus because there hasn't been material to talk. There hasn't been. There hasn't. Yeah, there hasn't been material to talk about. But I do one with my wife Terry for dance competition shows called Dance Fever. It's starting back up. Probably we're recording tomorrow night, I think.
Cool.
So that's 7. And then there's various that have come and gone, and I don't know what their nature is right now. There was one that I did an episode of that was talking about Maze Agency. With Chris Sheehan.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that might be about the only one that's kind of in limbo-ish that I'm not sure where it is. Everything else is been coming out, changing formats, what have you. But
so I can only do one show.
You could do more if you wanted to.
I could do more, but I in here, if those of you who don't know me personally, in here is in my head is chaos 24/7, because of a lot of different things. So to sit down and do a show, I owe Steven Orr an episode on Painkiller Jane that I could do just if I just sat down and hit record, but I can't get myself to my desk long enough to do it. So it's one of those things where it's so I can only do one. So when I just was talking about potentially, because the anniversary of Comic Addiction came up, and I was just like, it would be really cool if we did that again. And you and Ed and I have talked about this, a little bit here and there. We had talked about taking a break from Boom Addiction a couple months ago and doing a Painkiller Jane show and doing a couple other stuff too. But Comic Addiction kind of made sense to do all of that through. And in doing so, that means, at least for the time being, we're not going to hit episode 50 of Boom Addiction for a little bit. We're going to put that on hiatus for a little bit. Doesn't mean we won't talk about Boom Books or anything like that here on the show on Comic Addiction, but it just we won't focus on them. We'll talk about all kinds of things. I think one of the big things that I'm looking forward to is just the fact that we can just talk about comics in general. We can talk about new stuff, talk about old stuff, talk about whole runs of stuff, topics. So this is definitely an opportunity for all of you. If there's things that you like to suggest, doesn't mean we'll do them. I mean, don't get me wrong. Is we kind of want to take it easy and kind of figure out find our format and our flow for this show. So this show will be a little similar to Boom Addiction until we can kind of get that footing, just a little bit, and you'll learn that as this episode goes on. But yeah, if you got suggestions about stuff you want us to check out and read, and old stuff that you want us to talk about. I mean, I have an ungodly amount of Fantastic Four back issues that we're still reading through. I thought about getting rid of them like a month ago, and I'm like, I don't want to now because I started reading them again. So, which is the way my brain works. As long as they're present, I'm gonna keep up with them. So yeah, I mean, and Ed and I both read a lot of different books, not just Boom. And Ed's got a huge library of manga that I don't. And so anytime that he gets an opportunity to talk about that stuff, it's an education for me, which is really cool. I know for a fact in the last couple of years on Twitter, if you follow Ed on Twitter, if you don't, you should, because he's gotten several folks into various manga series and stuff like that. And it's been kind of interesting, watching and reading them back and forth, talk about, recommendations and stuff like that. So it's really good. So this is that opportunity for us to sort of sort of expand that.
Spread our wings.
Yep. Get back to the old days, but do it in a new way. I'm sure there's a song there somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that's covered.
Yeah. So that's my spiel. That's kind of my thoughts on it all. I have other thoughts, but I think Ed's going to probably cover most of those here and here. So I'll give you the mic.
Everything has an inciting event, right? You may think about things. We think about things all the time, but every time that you decide to change direction on your journey, something precipitates that. And Chris and I have been trying to foster a relationship with Boom Studios, particularly this calendar year, 2022.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it didn't seem to be happening, and we weren't sure what's going on, what wasn't going on, but it just wasn't happening. What we wanted to happen wasn't happening. And honestly, we weren't asking much. I mean, it's not like we wanted, all our books for free, nothing like that.
Well, let's give a little history to that too before we go too far.
Okay.
Is that when this is season 3 of the podcast, there was 2 other seasons. And there was like a couple years of in between time from 2 to 3. And during the first 2 seasons, if you want to say that, of the show, we had a really tight relationship with Boom. Tight from the point of view that the folks that we were in conversations with on a multiple times a week, easily through email and Twitter and stuff like that, aren't there anymore. So there's that. The communication, plus Boom has gotten bigger, since then. But I think that's the big thing, is that we were accustomed to a certain level of open communication, and we knew that a lot of time and personalities had gone in and out of the company since then. And so we were trying to not rekindle, but try to reestablish that communication with the company as a whole first. And we started to, but and then you can kind of go from there.
Yeah, things just didn't work the way we were hoping them to work, the way we were wanting them to work. But it's not something that had to occur for us to keep doing what we were doing. We were doing what we were doing because we wanted to.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Then we noticed some things on Twitter this past weekend that kind of was like, okay, the relationship that we're trying to foster isn't forthcoming for, many of the reasons that you're talking about, and perhaps reasons that we're not aware of. I don't know. All I know is it wasn't happening. So we just decided that this was a time to kind of not close that door, but just move over here to this other door that we already had and walk through it and continue the path of podcasting on that path. And that path is Comic Addiction, which we have done in the past, which Chris has done much in the past. So, I mean, it's not that we won't be talking about Boom Books, but it's not the only company that we're going to be talking about on the show. Not that it was the only company we talked about anyways, but it's the one we tried to. So
we tried to stay as focused as possible.
Yeah. There are still definitely Boom Books that I'm going to be reading and that I'll want to talk about, and I'm sure Chris is the same way. So, but this is our opportunity to kind of align our podcasting up with what we do, and that's just read comics. It just whatever. And then as Chris said, perhaps manga too. Although I wanted to read some manga for this, but I just couldn't find the time yet to sit down and read those. But so that's That's putting it nicely. I'm sure this weekend I said some things that were kind of not quite that nice, and
well, I will say that.
but
Well, the thing is that the two of us were the two of us are very passionate about what we do, and we had sort of a vision um, that we were going to get back to the old way of things,
yeah, that was
and I'm very I'm very very much a nostalgia kind of person. I I don't if I haven't talked to you in 5 years, I'm not gonna when you and I meet up again and start talking again, I don't even pay attention that it's been 5 years. I
right,
mean,
right,
and so that's the way I am with everybody. Professionally, personally, doesn't matter. Um, and that annoys some people sometimes that they're just like, "Oh, it's been so long." I'm like, "Well, okay, well, we can catch up, yeah, for sure." But I'm not going to pretend that, you know, you know, it was yesterday as far as
right,
I'm concerned. So,
right.
and that may be naive from a professional point of view. I don't know, whatever you
Mm,
want to call it. So, but it's just the way I do business and stuff like that. And and it's not that we're. I mean, the I sort of hearken this to the way Mike Smith and I used to treat Image Comics when we did Image Addiction. Image never paid us any attention. Um, but we would always joke and sort of build these what if scenarios
right, right,
that they were paying attention and stuff, and to the point where we actually had marketing people from Image on the show, like did interviews with, like, when Joe Keating was one of their marketing folks. We had him on the show because he was talking about his comics and stuff like that, and so we kind of would make comments to him like, "Oh yeah, like at the office and blah 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 blah." It's just like, and he's probably like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" But we just sort of built this world, and that's kind of how I look at it. It's like I just, I see us, as just fans, and I understand. I'm always told the time that I met Jimmy Palmiotti, I met him for the first time. I had talked to him on the phone, but that was prior to that. But I met him for the first time at Dragon Con. I almost said MegaCon, but it was Dragon Con. It's the first time I'd ever met him. I had been a huge fan of his for years and stuff like that, and I was there with John Lovelace and Charlie Huffman. We were super pumped and everything. We stood 10 feet away from him and had a conversation amongst the three of us out loud so he could hear it, about how we were excited to go meet him. And he just was like staring at us like, "What the fuck are you people doing?" And he's like, "We can just talk, right?" And he's like, "That's just," and that's
come
kind of
over
how
here, come
yeah,
over here.
it was kind of what he did. And so it's always been sort of uh my look at it with doing podcasts about comics and stuff like that, is that it's always quit standing 10 feet away, get involved. And so that's just the way I feel like everybody, you know, could not should, but could treat folks. And and it works with some folks, it doesn't work with others, and that's fine. It's not a big deal. My feelings were hurt a little bit, but that's because I'm a warm and fuzzy kind of guy.
Because you
So
care.
because I care. So but yeah, so I'm excited now
Oh yeah,
to be doing Comic Addiction, and I'm sure all kinds of things will happen. I'm sure my feelings will get hurt several times along the way. if
oh well,
Charlie if
right.
Charlie ever shows up in the chat, I'm sure he'll hurt my feelings
Oh
one way or
wow.
the other.
But before we move too far away from
Mhm.
Boom Addiction, there's a contest that you need
Oh
to
yeah, so
announce.
we should. I've always been told I should close my circles before I move on to new ones. And so to close the Boom Addiction circle, we had done a giveaway for Grim Number One second print, and so we had put it out there that if you had somehow missed the issue, and that you were really wanting to get it to read, and trust me, folks, I can tell just by the words that you use in an email that if it's real or not. the unfortunate and fortunate part of that is that we have someone who emailed us that I know is genuine. I know that they missed out on it somehow. But the unfortunate part is they were the only person to actually email us, which means one, everybody who was listening to the show got a copy of it. So good on you. And and if you didn't want it, you obviously didn't email us. So we got an email from Kirk, who is at Army 5 or Big 5 Army on Twitter, saying, "Greetings. I would love to enter to win the Grimm giveaway. Somehow I managed to miss this issue 1. Not sure how I did that since I buy a lot of Boom and I watch out for when Stephanie is writing comics." And then says, "Still waiting on Ed's beard care segment."
No, Ed doesn't do anything special for the beard. Sorry, guy. I don't know if that like messes with anybody, but no, all I do is just stand there as it grows. I'm blessed with the gene for
can't do it. This is about as far as I go.
Sorry,
this is a week of me stressing out. So
I didn't put in any requests or anything. It just
just the way it works. So.
Yeah.
So we will be getting Kirk his book out. I'm gonna reach out to him on Twitter, DM him, get his address, and we'll get that book out to him. So Kirk, hopefully you will enjoy that. And a sort of weird turn of event kind of thing. Grimm #2, when it came out, my comic shop did not get their copies. They didn't get their copies of 2, and they did not get their Alice Ever After, as well as it was like 5 or 6 other books, not just Boom, but other books. They still haven't gotten them because I asked about them yesterday.
Wow.
And they still haven't gotten them yet.
Makes me wonder if they're going to end up getting them at all.
I don't know. So I've got several quote unquote local shops. So one of the local shops, they didn't have just a regular cover. They had the 1 in 10, but they're going to sell it to me for cover price. Thanks.
Nice.
I appreciate it. Yeah. You don't have to do that. And they're like, well, we don't really sell these for more than double cover anyway, maybe $10. And so they were like, no big deal. You buy stuff from us all the time anyway. So I was like, okay, cool. I appreciate that. So now Alice Ever After, I don't know. We'll have to hunt that third issue down. Yeah. Nobody seemed to have that copy, so that's unfortunate. So I will. I think everybody just sold out from what they did order, and I didn't look for. It came out last week, so it's a whole week later. A lot of folks, kind of jumped on those issues, whatever. Not that it's sold out from a distributor level and it needed a second, third, or fourth print, but yeah, so we'll hunt it down. We'll figure it out. We'll find it. Chris has already read it, so I'm not too concerned about it. But it is nice to have in the collection. So, all righty. Anything else before we, I guess, dive into FOCs?
I think so. Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna dive into FOC. If you've been listening to Boom Addiction, you know that we're big fans of FOC. Let me make sure I actually have FOC up. I do. Do I have the right page up? Yes.
It says final orders due.
I had several tabs up, so I wasn't sure which one I had up. So FOC, we're going to do things a little different. Let me click off the Dynamite one real quick here.
We don't have room for all 50 covers of those 2 books.
I could be scrolling for a while. Yeah. So we want to continue to talk about FOC. And I've even thought this afternoon as far as doing a separate FOC show that we would post earlier in the week, like you and I would record maybe on Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't know, just something quick show, 15 minutes, kind of go through it. That way people get FOC up early, because I'm a slacker. But I think here on Thursdays it might be good too. It doesn't matter. But FOC is a big thing, at least for me. I think it gives us it gives me a good opportunity to go through and see what I haven't put on my poll. Not everything I want to subscribe to, but I do want particular issues and first issues I might want to try out, those kind of things. And for my local shop, FOC is a great time for me to pick those first issues up and pre-order them. This is the final order, as you can see, it's for final orders. So these are all due Monday, June 27th. Check with your local shop if you're going to be ordering through. They may do it earlier than that. As I've stated before, some do them Saturdays. If you're pre-ordering stuff with FOC for DC Comics, I think they want theirs due either Saturday end of day or maybe Sunday end of day. I forget what it is, but it's not Monday. It's like Saturday or Sunday. So keep that in mind. Keep communication open with your local comic shop, and so you'll know. But Diamond says 27th, so we'll use that as the final thing. So this is your final chance to get some of these books. So what we thought about doing is not just, we're going to go through all the Image books and all, we're not doing that. We thought we'd highlight a couple books that we are interested in and pre-ordering, and maybe some suggestions for you guys. So is there something, Ed, that you wanted to point out?
Well, everybody is all talking about this Prophet remastered.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's a pretty big one, not just from Image, but from everybody for this week. Prophet kind of is a marker book in definitely in Image history, but probably in comic book history as well, because of when and where it came out and everything. But
I agree.
Talked up quite a bit.
And it's one of those, the whole Liefeld losing a lot of his characters and stuff like that. Prophet just happens to be one of them that he was able to keep. So it is kind of neat. He's doing this. I think Brigade has got a remastered coming out. I think it's on FOC next week, maybe.
I'm not sure, but yeah,
I know it's coming up. So
also, let me throw out this one that is labeled Cover E Casada.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody be aware that that's not a new Casada cover.
Right.
That is a remastered cover from an event that they had, and it's just been touched up and recolored. There was a little bit of controversy because one of the comic book news sites indicated that was a new cover from Casada and Palmiotti, and somebody pointed it out, and then Joe Quesada pointed it out, and then so official word has come out by those that worked on it that no, I didn't do a new cover, and so it's a retouch, a remaster, or whatever you want to of a previously solicited or sold Quesada cover for that particular one.
Now, I am a little curious about this because I've looked through the Cyberforce 30th anniversary first issue thingamajigger. That was sort of a remastered version. This is saying it's a remastered by some of today's top comic book talents.
That sounds like more than just a remaster to me, but I don't know, because as far as I know, the book was only drawn by one person. So I mean, it's not like, so I'm not sure anymore exactly what it's going to be. I know that Rob is all about it on his Twitter as well. So
I'm gonna be picking it up. I love Prophet. I think Prophet's super, super cool 90s, and just
it's 90s.
It's pure 90s.
And that is one of my reading projects, which was in association with another podcast, but it has gone on hiatus, is reading those Image books from the beginning. And there is nothing like a 92, 93, 94 Image book.
Oh, for sure.
It is 90s. It is eye candy galore. It is the writing of people who are predominantly artists. But it is what it is. It just, for those of you that were fans, and I was all about Image in the 90s when that stuff was coming out. I still to this day remember every week, because I hadn't quite made the connection of where to go online to keep up with information. So the person on the other side of the counter at the comic shop was the person that I expected to have the answers to my questions.
Right.
So
Yeah.
every week I wanted to know when this Whilce Portacio Wetworks book was coming out.
And you asked for 7 years.
The answer was always, don't know. No, it didn't come out this week. No, and I was just like, oh, come on. So honestly, I unfortunately had to leave buying comics before Portacio got Wetworks out. Yeah. So I wasn't able to go to the store and get that first issue when it came out. But yeah, I remember every week I was asking for either Elementals from Comico.
Oh yeah.
Or Wetworks.
Yep.
Those were the two books. As I would look, because what she would do is she would have the stacks of all the books up, and you could just go through and pick, and take them up to the counter. And so I'd go through and I'm like, no Elemental, no Wetworks this week. No. Okay, I'll go ahead and get these.
It's supposed to come out every week, man.
But yeah.
Doug's suggestion is do a Powerbomb number 2. He wrote first issue, the great first issue for someone not super into wrestling. I did read the first issue of that. It is really good.
I have it, but I haven't read it yet. Yeah.
Daniel Johnson is it Daniel Johnson?
Yes.
Yeah.
Daniel Warren Johnson.
Daniel Warren Johnson. There you go. Yeah. But super good.
Nice kinetic style for wrestling.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Big fan of his stuff. As far as like keeping an image and stuff like that, there's not been, I mean, I'm kind of here and there. I did see they're doing the Skybound. If you remember, like a year or two ago, they did the Kirkman Ryan Otley special issue of, was it Solid Blood? It was like issue 17, of a series that had never happened. So they're doing something from early days of Image of Tomorrow, if you remember that, where they would do flash forwards to issue 25 of that particular series, and a different artist or writer would come in and do it. So they're doing this with the Skybound X series, which was a mini series, an anthology series that they had last year, or maybe it was earlier this year. I think it only went like 5 issues. So this is the 25th issue. So it's going to have, Battle Beast, obviously, here on the cover. So I'll have Kirkman and Otley doing that. We'll get a Dark Ride story from Joshua Williamson and Andrea Brachon. Oh yeah, they're the team behind Birthright. Oh god, yeah, totally forgot Birthright. That's a good book. And then Chroma, which is by the artist of Oblivion Song, Lorenzo Del Lacini. Wow, I totally butchered that. But yeah, so I saw this, I was like, yeah, I definitely have to get this. Now there are a couple different covers for it, which is fine, whatever. But $5 book, it's sort of an anthology book. It's got all the Skybound characters and stuff like that. If I get a new Ryan Otley, Kirkman, Invincible-esque story, even though it's just Battle Beast, I'm good for that. I want more of that world, and I'll take it any way I can get it. So
you mentioned that you were looking forward to Seven Sons. Did you read the first issue of that yet?
I've skimmed through it, but I have not had a chance to read the whole thing.
I haven't read it yet. Yeah, I just wondered.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it looks great. I mean, no doubt that it looks great. But I haven't had a chance to really dive into that one yet. So hopefully this weekend.
From Boom, got to mention Alice Ever After 4.
Yep.
And the 4th printing of Grimm #1, which I guess is just a different color scythe on the cover.
Yeah, I think the logo is different, and that's
the logo. Okay, so those are a couple mentions from a former exclusive company podcast that we used to do.
I wanted, let's see, I have been, and I'm okay. And honestly, I've not been reading G.I. Joes lately. I probably hadn't read it in the last year or two. But they're coming close to issue 300, so they're building up the storyline that's going to be 300. But I think that's the last issue of their, like, they don't hold the license. IDW won't hold the license for GI Joe anymore.
Oh, did they lose the license?
Apparently they did that, and Transformers. I mean, that's been a thing for the last, like, I'll say a year that I heard. But
yeah, I remember Transformers, but GI Joe was with that as well.
GI Joe is with that as well. So okay, I don't know who is getting either of those licenses.
Okay, I don't care who it is, but they've got to get Larry Hama to write it.
If not, yeah.
Then forget it. I mean, just,
right. No, I totally agree.
Yeah, come on, Larry Hama. Yeah, so
yeah, and GI Joe is one of those I have gone back and forth ever since, like, when, obviously I read it when it was one of the first comics I ever read. So obviously read it when Hama was doing it at Marvel, and then when Devil's Due picked it up, picked it up that because they had all the cool J. Scott Campbell covers, and then Devil's Due had it for a long time, and then IDW picked it up and sort of did their own thing, but then they came back and did Real American Hero, sort of a continuation of the Marvel series, which is what this is. So, and they kept up with the original numbering and everything, which I think is awesome. It's one of those things that it's always been that series that I can go back to every so often. I don't feel like I need to read every issue, but it does sort of allow me to kind of catch up with the characters for a little while. So I'll read a story arc or so and then not read it for a year and come back. So yeah, but when I heard that they were losing it, I was like, oh crap, now I need to pay attention to who's going to be picking it up. And they probably won't say until after 300, comes out, or is at least solicited, for who's going to do it. So, so we'll see where that ends up going. But yeah, it's getting closer to 300. So that's kind of cool. Then we get into some DC stuff. DC is just, as a whole, I've not been reading a whole lot of. So there's not been a ton, although I did want to point this cover out, and I'm trying to not be a variant cover fan, but we do recognize this art style from a certain Boom book.
Yep,
I saw that when I was flipping through the FOC. I was in, and he's been doing a lot of this is DeMeo. He's been doing a lot of DC, sort of he's doing a lot of ratio covers. And so this, I think, is a ratio cover. Yeah, it's a 1-in-25. So I have no interest in picking up Black Adam #2. But that's a sweet as all cover. And so,
yeah, but I mean, when you recognize an artist that's doing a variant cover, it's like, oh, well. Yeah.
He did one. I think it was, I forget what it was. It was, I think it was a Batman book, or no, it was the Justice League 75. He did a ratio cover for that was like a street scene of a kid looking up at a bunch of TVs and a store that's selling TVs, how they would have all the news on and everything. And just his colors in that sort of format and that scene, it's just so good. I mean, his work with colors is amazing. I am actually, I will be picking up this issue of Catwoman. I have not been reading this series up to this point, but when you put all of the Bat family onto a cover and they're all going to be in this issue, I feel like I have to pick it up. Yeah. It's just, it's a need. It's a want. I don't know. Maybe it is a need. I've slowly been getting back into the Batman family and stuff lately, given my opportunities just to read some new stuff. So, new story arc here in Detective Comics with Ram V. They've completely, they're going to be revamping what Detective Comics is, I guess, for at least while he's on it. So this first series, he's going to be writing with Simon Spurrier and Raphael Albuquerque is going to be doing the art on, which is great. I've not been reading Detective Comics probably over the last, I probably haven't picked up an issue. Well, I picked up some of the Dan Morris stuff because he was doing the art in them. but I don't think I've actually read them. I think I flipped through them just for the art. But I am kind of curious. Ram V has done some good stuff in the past. Cy Spurrier as well has done some stuff that I've really enjoyed. So, and I'm a big fan of Batman, so I am kind of curious what the two of them can do. And then Raphael Albuquerque doing the art on it. If you remember Scott Snyder's, American Vampire, him doing the art in that. So I'm big fan of all of that creative team. So hopefully they can put some magic together. And like I said, they've come in. I've seen the logo design. They've redesigned the logo and the trade dress and everything. It looks very gothic. So it's very cool. So I'm looking forward to that one. Let's see. Anything else? There wasn't really anything else, and I hadn't got to the back of the catalog yet.
I do want to point out they're coming from Marvel. Now, I probably won't be talking about DC and Marvel much. I read stuff from them, but there are so many podcasts out there that talk about Marvel and DC that they got that covered. So, but I do want to point out that the FOC for the first issue of Wild Cards is this week. Wild Cards being probably the longest running superhero novel series that there is. Most of the books, though, are not strictly novels. They're either they're anthologies of either short stories or novellas. But more important than that, in my mind, is the fact that George R.R. Martin has been attached since the very beginning in 1987 when the first Wild Cards novel came out. So he may be known for some other books, but this is one of his longer running books that he's been associated with as well.
Yeah.
And basically it's just comic books in superhero comics in prose form, which doesn't happen a lot. People just don't typically write novels about superheroes too much, I guess because of comic books being out there. But Wild Cards, at least in my mind, is one of the longer running series that does that, talks about superheroes in prose form. So yet again, there have been other series that have come to comics. Marvel apparently has the most recent license, and the first issue is FOC this Monday. So point that out.
Doug's wanting to make sure we note Aquaman Andromeda. I saw that the first issue had come out. Yeah. I don't let's see if I put my cursor on the right screen here. Was the second issue solicited up here for FOC? Let me scroll up here because it's super long. This is a live show, Chris. You might want to hurry up there. There's Aquaman 6. Yeah, here it is, Andromeda number 2. So yeah, it's got Christian Ward, who I love his artwork. But I did not check that out. I'm not a big Aquaman fan, but I think this is, correct me if I'm wrong, is this a Black Label book? It might be.
Is it? I didn't think it was.
So it's an Elseworld, possibly. I could be wrong. Something makes me think that it's a Black Label. No, there's nothing here that says Black Label. So I am wrong, more than likely, which is par for the course. So, but yeah, I've heard good stuff about this series. But then I've also, I know the guys on iFanboy, they did read it. I think it was part of their Patreon pick of the week. And they were not a big fan of it.
Doug says it's magazine size.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Cool. So it is Black Label. Yeah.
Oh, like Swamp Thing Green Hell.
Yeah. Well, they've done Rogues.
It was okay.
Yeah. So they've been doing a lot of that magazine size, the Treasure Edition, not Treasure Edition, but magazine size. Yeah. So it's good though. I do like that format. But no, there was, as far as Marvel, there wasn't anything else. I'm glad you brought up the Wild Cards thing, because I did see that. That is good stuff.
Yeah, Wild Cards has always been one of those things that I've almost always read, but I get my superhero fix from comics, and I just I've never gone to prose for that kind of stuff.
Just for the fear of it, we'll look at Dynamite. And folks, I joke about Dynamite. I love Dynamite stuff, but some of their licensing that they
guys.
get,
He trashes Dynamite all the time. Them and all of their multiple variant covers. I
mean, well, the variants, yes.
Cover V, cover Y, cover Z. I mean, come on, guys. Let's
I do like a lot of their books. I don't like this Bad Balls versus Garbage Pail Kids. I just think that's dumb.
Well, somebody has to have it. Marvel had it for a little while. They had it in their Star line back in the mid '80s.
Well, that's fine, but it's just it's got nothing. Oh God, there's so many covers.
Samurai Sonya jumped out at me. I'm a big stan for Japanese stuff, and Red Sonja has always been a favorite. So putting those two together, and I'm like, hell yes, please. So.
Yeah, I've got the first issue pulled for me. I've just got to go. That was what I was hoping to go by. Not that particular issue, but just getting my comics in general. But I do have it pulled for me, so I'm looking forward to checking out. But that was exactly right. I haven't picked up a Red Sonja series in first couple issues of the Palmiotti Connor run, but I haven't finished that run yet. But this, it was just something about, oh, all right, Samurai. Okay, cool. It's a little different, so let's check it out. So, but yeah, then we get into the back of the catalog, which is always great.
Everybody else, the green pages and
previews. This bar should be green. It really should be.
Yeah, it should. It should match up
because you would know what that is.
Yep.
But a Calculated Man number 2 is I'm actually if we have time on the show, but that is a book I've read recently, the first issue of that. It's okay, but it is it's an Aftershock book that I'm finally kind of stretching back out and picking up some of those Aftershock books. I won't pick them all up, but I'll pick, just because I don't have the money, but I will try out some. Baby Teeth. I mean, this is stuff that we used to talk about a long time ago. Hardcover for year 2.
When we had an Aftershock show.
Yeah, back then.
The first Aftershock podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Every time I see a first issue blink, it's from Oni. I don't know anything about this book other than the fact Christopher Sabella is writing it, and Hayden Sherman. Those are two names that I know very well as far as the work that they've done in comics. And so, that's all it takes for me is just putting their names on them, and I'll at least check it out, check the first issue out. So I've got this one on my FOC pull. So, and then what else we got going on here? Anything else that you had?
Down in the magazine section, there's a magazine called Mutiny that the 3rd issue is out.
Oh, sweet.
I have the first 2 issues, and I haven't read them yet. But what struck me is that it's an anthology kind of crossed over with almost a fanzine kind of concept.
Cool.
And I saw that they were coming out with this 3rd issue, and I went to their site and got the first 2 just to get a taste of it to see. And I have them on my stack, which we all have that stack. And I just unfortunately haven't gotten to it yet. And here, I would have to decide on the 3rd issue. So I'm not.
Oh, they've got a second printing for the first issue.
Mm-hmm.
So nice.
But what particularly drew my attention was this one cover that has these 2 detectives, Watson and Holmes. The Watson and Holmes cover here.
Oh, yeah.
Is what drew my eye, and I was like, what? And
I remember that.
Yeah, apparently there's a one of the anthology stories is a Watson and Holmes story. I don't know if it's in all 3 issues or if it's just in this issue or whatnot. And I do have to credit Mr. Derek Coward for back in the day turning me on to Watson and Holmes. He was the one that pointed it out when I was listening to his podcast and got me interested in that franchise.
For sure.
Or that IP or that whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I did pick up a couple issues of that. That's cool. It's good.
And so that's those are the things that I saw that stuck out this FOC for me.
Yeah, That was about it for me as well. I'm sure if I go through it again, because I tend to go through this several times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. Like one of my local shops, they do a YouTube video on Tuesday evenings. I think it's when they post it, where they highlight some of the stuff that they, and it's usually they're interested in or recommending, and a lot of them are new books, or new issues,
Right.
or first issues, new series, and stuff like that. So, try to get folks to, and a lot of it is, like indie stuff, which is really cool. They're really trying to sort of get folks to at
Just
least pay attention to the back of the catalog.
doesn't get enough coverage. Yeah. There's a
No,
handful of podcasts out there that talk about indie books as they come out, but most of the stuff is Marvel and DC coverage.
yep.
That's the big hotness. Speaking of indie coverage,
Okay.
coming out next week, right?
That's what I just flipped over to. Yeah.
June 29th. Yes.
I got to get off this dynamite. We were talking about dynamite before the show
Oh,
started.
yeah,
So
Dynamite
like
is-
all of my stuff is like focused. My panels are focused on their stuff. So here we go.
So next week, the very first thing that jumped out at me was from Abstract Studios, the Terry Moore 2022 sketchbook.
Oh yeah, for
I
sure.
absolutely right. I absolutely love Terry Moore's art.
Yep.
Always have. Look forward. Grab anything that he puts out.
He's got a new series. Actually, I just put on my pull list, the Parker Girls.
Yes.
That'll be coming out. What,
Yes.
July or August?
August, I
22?
believe. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Looking forward to that one.
yeah. So I've got that on my pull list this week. I always have to be very specific, and it's not that the comic shops that I shop at are run by idiots. They're not. They're run by very comic savvy people. But I've always felt like I have to, if it's not a Marvel or DC book, and even if it's sort of an obscure Marvel or DC, I'll sort of like, hey, that's a DC book. But I always put the publisher when I write it out, like, all right, this is, whatever,
Mhm.
Boom Studios next. And I never have anybody comment, but when I put Parker Girls and then put Abstract Studio, the shop messaged me back like, we know. It's like, oh, okay. Well, you fans, cool. All right.
Yeah, just let just making sure. That's all.
Just want to make sure. So, um, uh, so I saw, obviously we've talked about it. All the Boom stuff, Berserker is coming.
Berserker, yeah.
And then Buffy, the one shot that I'm almost picking it up. I was picking it up anyway, but I'm almost picking it up out of the curiosity of thinking in my brain as I read it, what was this gonna be?
Mhm.
Because they
Yeah.
switched, writers or whatever. What
Writers
was it
and
going to be? So
and don't forget, the last issue of Seven Secrets comes out next week.
oh yeah, I'm super stoked.
That'll
I'm very upset too.
that'll finish that one up
Yeah.
for you.
5 covers for that bad boy. But dude, it's been a great run. I can't wait to go back and reread it too.
Oh, yeah.
Knowing the things that as you learn as the series goes on, coming back and rereading it.
Well, then you can read it for other things. You can look for other
Mhm.
things
Yeah.
because you already know those things.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I'm pretty stoked about that. Let's see. I really didn't look through next week's
Down
books.
here for DC, The Question by Dennis O'Neil and Dennis Cohen, Omnibus Volume 1 hardcover. Now it is a little
It's a little
up there,
pricey, but that's what you expect.
Oh, but story. I mean,
How many?
this is and
How much is that covering? Does this say?
it's interesting while you're looking at that. I just read the first 4 appearances of The Question this past weekend.
Oh wow! All right, so it collects the Question series number 1 through 27.
Okay.
Green Arrow Annual number 1 and the Question Annual number 1 is Detective Comics Annual number 1.
That's a lot of books.
That's a lot of books.
For I'm sorry, for $100, it damn well better be.
Yeah, well, yeah, true.
But those first 4 stories by Ditko, nobody has ever been able to write that character like he did.
That's pretty cool.
Now, O'Neill and Cowan, I would get that absolutely, but those Ditko stories were just different. They felt different, and of course they looked different. But it's just, yeah, I can see why anybody that knows that that's where the question started, I can see why they would always be interested in what someone else is doing with it, with that beginning. So it was the first time I'd ever read those. So
that's a great, I love the question.
It was very cool.
I'm if you're watching us on YouTube, then you know what I've highlighted. We're in the Dynamite section. This is what we're talking about pre-show. This is the first thing that Ed mentioned to me after we got on the call together. It was like, so next week, Draculina number 4.
That's correct. Now,
cover V.
The next book, Red Sonja Volume 6, number 10, goes down to S.
Goes to S, yeah. So it's
almost. Oh man, yeah.
There was a day, and maybe one day I will talk about it. But I am a ginormous Red Sonja fan. I at one time had all the Marvel stuff, not only the Red Sonja stuff, but it had the her first appearance, and then had a lot of her appearances in Conan and all this stuff. And then Dynamite started publishing her stuff, as well as collecting all the old Marvel stuff, which I then bought copies of that too. So if I was, and I'm not collecting Red Sonja like I used to, which was every variant cover, but that was back when Dynamite was only doing like 3 or 4, so it was affordable. I would look at this and just scoff and just like, no, you're not going to get my money. Like, I'll give Merca my money, no problem whatsoever. And then some of these are really good artists, don't get me wrong. But drawing the line at the cosplay cover.
I was going to say, but the farther down that list you go, you're getting into money to hopefully snatch one of those covers.
I just want to read comics, man. I just want to read comics. So let's see, what else is there?
Next thing that caught my eye was Marvel. If you see anything before that.
I was just kind of scrolling through, especially some of the collected editions. I was wanting to see if there was anything big there. I don't see anything for next week, at least from those. But what you got, Marvel?
Marvel Voices Pride number 1. Now, the thing that stands out for me is that in that book, there's going to be like 6 or 8 Ohatmu style entries for LGBTQIA plus characters. And they'll be the first entries for those characters that there has been in anything. So for those of you interested in those characters, interested in Ohatmu entries, that is, we don't see that too much anymore, because with the internet and everything like that, Ohatmu just is not used like it once was. But they decided to do those entries in that book for some of those characters that have come up over the years and just haven't had an entry anywhere yet.
That's cool. I'm glad that they're doing that. One for sure that I've been waiting for is the new Fantastic Four miniseries. If you actually, I think this actually came out this week. This is some of the covers. This is CEF. So I think Voices actually came out this week too. This is just some of the other covers that didn't come out.
Oh, you're right. Cover B, cover C, cover. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So okay, and they're all labeled Ask Retailer as far as price.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But so I guess this week, again, I still hadn't got my books yet, but that new Fantastic Four series, I'm looking forward to checking out. I was a big fan of that. That was, back in the day, didn't really read a lot of Fantastic Four, but you put new team and it's got Gray Hulk.
Oh, that's the Hulk Wolverine.
Yeah, it's got Mr. Fix-It, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, and Spider-Man. I'm like, I am all on this. And it was drawn
by Peter David.
I think this. I don't remember.
Is it written by Peter David?
I blanked on that. Yeah, Peter David. Yep.
Okay, I thought so, because he did he did it originally, right?
That I don't remember. That's the unfortunate thing. But it was one of those things. Plus, it was drawn by Art Adams, and so that's it's this miniseries is not drawn by Art Adams, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, Peter David, as far as the Marvel miniseries that he's been doing, another one that came out or that was in FOC was the Genis-Vell, the Captain Marvel series.
Yes.
He's doing a 5-ish miniseries for that. He's wrapping up his 3 miniseries arc for Maestro, building into Future Imperfect. I haven't read those 3 miniseries, but the guys on iFanboy have, and they're huge fans of that. And they were like, we would never expect this. We didn't, but Peter David is just not, he's not lost a beat in the stuff that he's doing now. So I'm glad that and I do want to go back and pick up the Maestro miniseries. I've got Future Imperfect. So and I was a big fan of, I read a lot of his Hulk run as it was coming out. So and actually I think I stopped reading Hulk for a while right after he stopped, because I was like, if Peter David ain't doing it, then I ain't reading it. It was one of those times. Right. But I eventually went back. So well, it was like he was the only. It's like when you said Claremont's not writing X-Men, but he's been writing it for 17 or 20 years, and you're like, well, who else can do it? I don't know.
Yeah, right. There's another writer. What?
Yeah, did not know that.
I know the feeling.
So a lot of Star Wars stuff. Yeah, nothing big in there.
Want to shout out Tomorrow's Publishing.
Oh yeah, let's get down.
If you guys aren't buying Alter Ego, back issue, comic book creator, what are you doing? Those are all great. And I personally would also recommend Retro Fan. Retro Fan is a 70s and 80s pop culture magazine, not just comic books, but movies, prose, ideas and places and things to do back in the 70s and 80s. And it's been very, very entertaining. If you want a nostalgia ride, that magazine is it, man.
Nice.
It has just been so much fun. The topics and the things in each issue that just absolutely take me back to when I first read or saw or heard about, or what have you. It's been a really, really fun ride reading those issues that they've been coming out. I've been grabbing that one since the beginning.
Cool. I love Astro Boy.
Yes.
I have the collected edition of the videos, or they're on DVD, but
he's got a new cartoon coming out.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Have to check that out. So, but yeah, it's it was one of those first things I got. I got that box set of the old stuff, and I forgot how old my kids were. My son was he was less than 10. He tore through those things. Just loved watching those things. So that Astro Boy has been a big part of the family. But yeah, I've read a lot of Alter Ego back issues.
Yeah.
Brick Journey is their Lego one, right?
Yes. Yeah, I don't read that. I'm not a Lego maniac. So
that'd be a hobby I'd love to get into. I don't have the space for it. That's a lot going on there.
Yep.
I have said this though. I've told my wife this. If and they don't. There's no way I will ever get it. So she's safe. But if I ever found the Millennium Falcon or the big Death Star, I'm sure those things go for $400, $500, $600 now, which is why she's safe. That I would never get those. But if I just had $500 burning in my pocket and ran across those. One of those, I would definitely be picking those things up, putting it together for about a year. They look great. So,
cool. The Astro Boy, 52 half-hour episodes, and it's being developed by the creator of Miraculous Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir. Remember that?
No.
Oh, the covers. I immediately get an image of the covers. Thomas Astruc, and It was just announced last week, so it may not
Oh,
be out
okay.
until the end of this year or maybe next year. But
Okay.
52 half-hour episodes is what they have
Nice.
initially planned.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a full commitment right there. They're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, this is going to work. Do it."
Yeah. I will have to watch that for sure. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So we're clocking at the hour and a
Hour and
half
a half.
mark. Do you? I mean, like I said, we're kind of free flowing right now. So, yeah, we definitely wanted to highlight some of these things. FOC, obviously, stuff that's coming out next week. We feel it's important that you guys, at least that we highlight this stuff so you guys can check it out. So now, you got some books you want to talk about? You want,
Yeah,
or what?
I wanted to look at a title, Midnight Western Theater, that came out last year from Scout Comics. It was a 5-issue anthology series, and what brought it to my attention was that I read, I believe this week, that it has been optioned for television. So I thought, well, anytime I see something is optioned for big or little screen, I'm always interested to read it if I can, just to see why. What is it about?
Right. Yeah.
Anthology, very light colored. To me, it's almost closer to black and white than it is color, but there are multiple shades. So I mean, it truly is a color series. The covers were in black and white, and they were very, very outstanding. Let me get some creators here. It's not like I've never talked about a comic book before. I don't know what to do. Um, Lewis Southard is the writer. David Hahn is the artist. Ryan Cody, the colorist, and Buddy, I'm sorry, Buddy Bedouin, I believe the letter, or Bedouin, Bedouin. Uh, Kalman Androsovsky is the cover artist. And I believe, there we go. So, anthology series about a duo, a woman and a man. They both approximately seem to be the same age. She is Hortensia Thomas, known as the Woman in Black, and he is Alexander Wortham. He is a vampire. That comes out in probably halfway, 2/3 of the way through the first issue. So that. Now, the question for me was, well, why is this woman hanging out with this vampire? This takes place primarily in the late 60s to late 70s. That is the now for the book. Now it does go back to tell the story about both Hortensia and Alexander. And one of the reasons that, well, not one of the reasons, Hortensia at this point in her life, and when she meets Alexander, she is a kind of a supernatural fixer. She describes herself as a hunter, which she does, but she also takes cases where she is supposed to find missing people and find out what happened to people and things like that. So in one of her early cases, she runs across someone that has been their livestock flocks have been attacked by a chupacabra, and she tracks down the chupacabra to a cave, and it turns out that it is a vampire living in a cave that is feeding on the animals rather than people, trying to maintain some semblance of humanity, not just completely give into the animal. So that's how they get together. Turns out that Hortensia is a young lady that as a child was caught up in a cult ritual during which she was sacrificed. Apparently, the sacrifice worked. The god or gods to which she was sacrificed were so pleased, in fact, that they gave her her life back. But she's dead. But she's not. So she's kind of like the AEW wrestler, the living dead girl.
Yes.
That's kind of what Hortensia is like. Now, in these 5 issues, she doesn't necessarily, well, not necessarily, she doesn't show that she has any supernatural or preternatural powers. The only thing that would put her in the non-human category is the fact that in the 5th and final issue of this miniseries, we see that she was sacrificed and came back. So otherwise, in the book, she has been a normal human being. Well, no, she does ride a skeletal horse. I'll say that. So that tells you that something must be weird about her because, yeah, first of all, how do you find a skeletal horse to ride? But yeah, so they're a fixer hunter, almost private-y detective duo in the 1860s, 1870s, out in the West. Maybe near the West Texas town of El Paso. No, I'm kidding. Out in the West during this time, and that the miniseries that I read would be a good basis for a television show. As I was telling Chris before we started this evening, I hope that that's what they stick with, because they could go off in many rather obscure and less satisfying ways to use these characters and the setting. What has been created by Southend and Hahn is very usable, very good. The the very first issue. It's now also be aware that this is not a series that I would give children at all. It's not sexual, but it is violent. And in the very first issue, it is violent in such a way that no, I would not give this to children, or even people that are triggered by Wortham type comic books, because he would have been all over this first issue and said, "See, this is what's ruining our children's brains."
Yeah.
Because in the first issue, we're introduced to a group of men that have ridden into a town in the West somewhere, and have systematically killed off everyone that could oppose them. Right, so that's lawmen, the mayor, older people in town that could fight back. Well, they're all gone. So the women, yeah, we killed all them. Well, they're all gone. Well, there's some kids left. Well, they killed them, so they're all gone. Yeah, really. And after they killed this last batch, the sheriff and the children, a group of children is who we see them kill. They go into the bar and they're drinking, and in walks our duo. And we don't. No, that's the next issue. I don't think we're ever told really why they're there. I suspect that they were just riding through, but realized what had happened and decided that it was not right and something needed to be done. So they went into the bar and confronted the men successfully. None of the men survived. There were like 6 of them. None of them lived. And so that's how we're introduced in the first issue, and then there are other cases in the next 4 issues. There is some stories that take us back to the origins of both of these characters and the origin of the duet itself. So, excuse me. So interesting stuff. I definitely, for people who enjoy westerns, supernatural westerns, I think this would definitely be up their alley. Again, interested to see what they're going to do with it as far as a small screen adaptation, but plenty of meat on the bone to work with there.
Cool. So, kind of keeping in line with that, I talked as far as like books that were being optioned. A book that apparently got optioned that I was unaware of until after I bought it. A Calculated Man by Aftershock. I've heard of it. Came out like a week or 2 ago. I just got it last week or this past weekend. It's written by Paul Tobin. Art is by Alberto Albuquerque. Colors is Mark Englehart, or not Englehart, Englert. Letterer is Taylor Esposito. So, and again, this is published by Aftershock. I've heard a lot of folks talking about this on various podcasts and stuff like that, so I won't go reiterate too much about it. But basically, the gist is there was a guy who is he's in the mafia. Basically, he's the accountant for the mafia, for all these bad guys and stuff like that. He comes to find out that they're coming after him for some reason. Again, that's sort of part of the story. They're coming after him, and so he can either just take it, and let them kill him, or he can fight back. And so he decides, well, probably the smart thing to do would be just to lie down and die. So he's going to fight back. Come to find out, because of the way his brain thinks, I think he said he sees numbers like colors. So so everything that he sees, he sort of timestamps it in his head. So there's a scene where he's talking to a barista, and it's like it was sort of like walking through his day. And so she likes to sort of quiz him, like, okay, I took a picture of myself a week ago when you came and got this coffee, and what was I wearing? And so he would kind of go through, oh, you're wearing this outfit with this color, with this, that kind of thing. So it's very photographic, but at the same time, it's he can tell you exactly when and where. He sees people. Like, there's a scene where he walks by a car, it's got this lady in it, and he's like, yeah, I saw her at the grocery store 187 days ago, that kind of thing. So that's the way his brain works. And so he described it some other way to some mathematicians that he was helping learn some weird mathematic theory. And I forgot how he put it, but it was kind of like he sees equations like waves in an ocean. It just sort of flows over him, and he just kind of knows it. And so, and they're just kind of sitting there going, oh man, I wish it was that easy for me. That kind of thing. So so he's discovered, with this sort of mindset, the way his brain works, he's a really good I don't say hitman, but he can take care of himself very well. So so he's going to go after them now, instead of waiting for them to come get him. He's going to go after them. So it's an interesting concept. It's unique enough. But I've seen something kind of like this before in movies or TV shows or something like that. But I don't know. It works well with this first issue so far. It's got me intrigued. I didn't pick it up until I heard some folks recommending it. So there's that. Enough people were liking it. The second issue again was on FOC. So it is a book that I'm at least going to be paying attention to when the next couple issues come out, and trying it out and kind of testing out. Paul Tobin is someone who I know the name. I couldn't tell you exactly what all that I've read that he's written, but I do recognize the name. So at least that has imprinted on my brain. Let's see. Doug says, I read Calculated Man 2. I thought it was pretty good. Yep. So see if Doug and I agree, then can't go wrong.
That means that I'm probably going to need to pick it up. And
yes, exactly what it means. So yeah. But yeah, and the art in it is good. I like it. It's I hate to say this, but you and I have read some Aftershock books in the past, and it's not that they had a house style, but they had their artists were clean and crisp, and were definitely had, I felt like, good mechanics. Could maybe not. I wouldn't say they're like,
say they drew feet well. Is that
yes?
Exactly. Okay.
But when I flipped through, like, I didn't flip through the issue before I picked it up. I just grabbed it. I forget who did the cover for this. I think this one's it's Andrea Moody who I like, but it's not a. If you look at it, it's not a particularly like
not
you know
a grab you kind
a
of
grab you cover or whatever. It just happened to be the cover I grabbed, so it is a grab you cover.
Yeah,
But
it's a grab you cover.
it was the one that was on top. So, but yeah, didn't actually flip through it and look at it until I got home, and I really I'm always afraid. I'm one of those folks. I the art will ruin it for me, even if the writing is really good. If the art is bad. Uh, I can appreciate style differences and stuff like that. Like I'm a huge fan of Riley Rossimo, and his style is very much out there from everybody else. It's a more grittier Scotty Young kind of look. But this is not anything like that. Don't I'm just using those as an example. I really like the art. It wasn't really flashy or anything like that, but it was good, and it didn't take me out of the story, which I appreciated. Kind of kept me going with stuff, and and I'm a big fan of an artist who can provide me some faces that are different. That not everybody looks the same, and so everybody was unique. So I kind of knew who everybody was. If I couldn't remember their names, at least I remember the faces. So it was it's pretty good issue. So we'll see what the next issue is what that holds. I'm assuming this is a mini series of some kind. I think the FOC said it was like 5 or 6 issues or something. So we'll see at the end of the second issue if I'm interested, if I'm hooked enough to get the third issue. More than likely I'll just finish the mini series at that point. But yeah, so we'll see. So branching out, trying some new stuff. This 5 years ago, this would have been a no-brainer for me to pick up. But I'm easing back out into the wild. So I don't like picking up new stuff anymore. I'm just rather would just pick up the old stuff now. So, but yeah, this is a new book that I'm gonna give a shot. So, you got anything else?
I read a book from Dark Horse Comics called The Ward.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've heard of this.
Really, I hadn't really heard anything about it. Or
again, listening to some podcasts, I've heard a couple folks talk about
it. Written by Kevin Scott, art by Andre Ponce, letters by Mauro Mantella. Couple covers, publisher, editor, Mei Hijikuro, the designer, and the digital art technician, which is a new position I've not seen in a book, Betsy Howitt. It's about a medical facility for infernal beings. There's your elevator pitch.
Yep.
Everybody needs help, and this is the one for the dark demons, ghosts. We have an ogre and a minotaur and some other names of beings that I have never heard of, and I didn't take the chance to look up, so I don't know if they're made up for this book or if they're from other mythologies or other peoples around the world. I'm not sure, but we're introduced to our point of view character in this issue is a young lady who seems like just a regular human being, but we come to find out that she was a doctor for this hospital ward who had quit. We don't know why she quit in this first issue. We find out that maybe it was due to a traumatic occurrence in the hospital. And I say hospital. Basically, what this is, or the way it's presented to us, it's an emergency room trauma ward. Is that's the front end of what we see for the facility. So that's where everybody comes in. So it's not this first issue wasn't infernal beings coming in to get a new kidney or to have a baby. Although apparently a baby is the second issue of some kind of giant creatures or ogres or something like that, looking at the cover. But this first issue, it was trauma. That's how we are introduced to everything. Interesting concept. The medical aspect is, I mean, it's not that hasn't been done before in any kind of media you can think of, really, but it's the fact that they're dealing with infernal beings. Okay, not just supernatural beings. They specifically say infernal. So these are the darker denizens of the supernatural or preternatural world. For instance, the attending physician, when we are introduced, is a female ghost of apparently Japanese origin, according to the name, who has no face.
Oh, okay.
She's a ghost, and so she rises from the floor or flashes through the walls or whatever, and she's there. That's the attending physician. Now, the girl that we're introduced to, and I moving through here looking for her name, but I'm not seeing it quickly. She appears as a black female human, as far as we know. This first issue, I don't recall seeing her do anything supernatural or anything like that. She would not be the only straight up human being in this medical facility, but she certainly would be one of the very few. So I don't know if she's going to turn out to be, supernatural or truly just a human being. One of the cooler aspects I see here in this first issue, first of all, the security person is an ogre with his tusks ground down in his lower mandible. Nice. So he's got, and new to me was one of the people. Someone is injured and is just found, and so is then taken to be treated. So there's kind of a mystery as to, first of all, who she is, how she was injured, and why she was injured. And then, of course, there is a second patient that comes in. And so automatically, if you have seen this enough, you know that there must be a connection between the second patient that comes in with some kind of funky thing going on and the first patient who came in who was injured in some funky kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to figure out how those puzzle pieces fit together. That's what this story is about. But the Minotaur that comes in, he's part of a gang, and the gang values pain over everything else. So this Minotaur is full of body piercings that are pure iron, because apparently iron is anathema to Minotaurs, and so he stays in a constant state of pain from these piercings. We find out about this because one of his attending nurses is Fae, and when she touches some of his piercings, she nearly erupts in pain in fire because it's iron. And then you find out, oh, well, what would cause it? And they tell you this. And then the Minotaur, who was unconscious but then wakes up, tells you why he has done that to himself. So that was something about Minotaur lore that I had never heard of before. I didn't know they had a thing for iron like elves do.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Cold iron is always how you see it described with elvish lore, is they have a thing for cold iron that it doesn't suit them. So that kind of captured my attention. A medical facility for infernal beings. I thought, okay.
Yeah.
And I see here Doug said he wanted to check out the ward. Doug, I definitely would grab the first issue if you haven't. Read it. Definitely give it a shot and see if it's something that grabs your attention. If it does, let us know. I'll be reading it on through to see what all happens. It's an interesting concept.
Cool. That's good. Yeah, I saw I think when I was going through my list of just because I try and look 2 or 3 weeks into it, in advance on leagueofcomicgeeks.com.
Mm-hmm.
So it was one of those things. It's sort of like, oh, let's look at all the first issues that are coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And so it was something I looked at there. I was like, oh, I really hadn't seen a first issue from Dark Horse that was sort of outside of their licensing books and stuff. So that sort of caught my eye. And then, like I said, I've heard a couple podcasts talk about it here in the last week or so.
Okay.
And they all seemed, to to like it, well enough that they're wanting to check out the next issue.
Yeah,
So.
it's certainly different from, from your superheroes, first
Oh
of all.
yeah.
And yeah, like you said, it's not well, as far as I know, it's not a licensed property from Dark
Yeah.
Horse, which is a lot of what they have. So
Yeah. So as far as like, I've been reading so many like random things lately, but one thing I did want to point out was Savage Dragon. I finally have an opportunity to talk about Savage Dragon, and to just talk about like, so issue 262 came out. I'm not going to specifically talk about that particular issue, but it's one of those things where it just gives me an opportunity to talk about Savage Dragon. It's been sort of on hiatus for the last 6 months or so. Eric Larson, if you don't know, is also writing and drawing the series Ant, which is a character that he had purchased from someone who's the original creator, Mario Gully, and so really wanted to put a lot of energy into this character, getting the series sort of setting everything quote unquote right with the character so he can move forward with it. The backstory behind that character was all over the place. There were many attempts in a shorter period of issues where they started, restarted. The origin of that character, I think, had like 3 or 4 different origins in a short period of time, but it was just because it was for various reasons. So Lars has been putting a lot of his time and energy on that. So it's obviously Savage Dragon. He can't draw both books. And then apparently this particular issue, because I follow him on Facebook, which he's very open about sort of his creative process, and just if he's struggling with something, he lets us all know who are following him and everything. As far as like like there was a particular set of pages that were just giving him just nightmares. He just could not figure out how to put those pages together. So it was difficult for him to get the issue out. So, but that being said, all the time has gone by, and Savage Dragon has always been a in real time series. So it always, for me as a reader, always, when there's such a huge break, how is he going to handle that catch up period, especially if he's in the middle of telling a story. So, and that's kind of where we are. We're in the middle of telling a story. So, I don't know if the next couple issues there's going to be sort of a time jump or something like that. Usually, when he does a time jump or something like that, it's not like, hey, this is August and now it's January. It's not like that. He actually will spend a page or half a page or some panels and stuff like that, and show you how time is moving and getting caught up. So while it's probably really difficult from a creative point of view of telling these stories how he wants to tell them, and sort of keep up with the in real time kind of storytelling, I know that's got to be a nightmare for him. But at the same time, this is a series that I've been reading since the very beginning of it. We're at issue 262, plus there was a 3-issue miniseries prior to that. So picked it up, day one, been a fan, reading it ever since. And so it's one of those things. X-Men used to be that title for me, or Uncanny X-Men used to be that title for me. That was just sort of a no-brainer that Chris is always going to pick that up. But Savage Dragon has easily taken that title years and years ago. So it's one of those things. I've always said if I ever stopped reading comics, I would still continue to pick up Savage Dragon. I've invested a lot of time reading these books, and we'll probably go back and reread this series at some point, and sort of read what's going on now, as well as sort of how we got there and stuff like that. So if you've never read Savage Dragon, I know it's real. For whatever reason, large numbers on issues tend to intimidate folks. While there's never, I say, a perfect issue to jump on for Savage Dragon, because it's just one continuous story being told, I do think that this issue There's a lot going on. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of storytelling being done. But it's one of those things. I frequent TikTok quite a bit, and there's a lot of videos of that come across for whatever reason. If you've ever met me, exercise is not my thing, but there's a lot of exercise videos that come across. Maybe somebody's trying to tell me something. I don't know, but they always have the treadmill going. They always have the treadmill going, and somebody will jump onto it and then just start running really, really fast. That's kind of what you have to do with Savage Dragon when you jump into any issue. If you haven't been reading it, you just have to like jump in and just like, all right, let's go. We got a full speed ahead. But it's always been one of those, fun series. So, and just, it's gorgeous covers like this, and you get such gorgeous art by Larson. I've been following Larson since his early days of drawing Doom Patrol for DC. That's how I got introduced to Doom Patrol. Well, not particularly him. That series, Steve Lytle was the original artist on the series, and then when he left after 4 or 5 issues, Larson came in and started drawing it when Shrapnel first appeared. See, Shrapnel's first appearance is Larson drew that. So he's always just been one of those guys that I love checking out his stuff and everything like that. So this is my recommendation. I'll just make it here at the beginning of Comic Addiction 138 as we move forward. And you will hear me talk about Savage Dragon many more times in the future, but this is you need to check it out. I want you to check it out. It may not be for you, and there have been stretches of this book that were not for me. Mike Smith and I have had many conversations, and I'll bring up Mike Smith a lot because him and I had done Image Addiction together. Savage Dragon was a staple of our conversations. So we still talk about this book through DMs and stuff like that. There have been runs many issues, so whole story arcs where Mike and I are like, I don't know where we're going here. We're really questioning, sort of what Larson's doing. And we'll kind of put I'll put a pause on picking up the book for a little while and then wait, until a couple issues, come out. Cause this doesn't come out monthly. It comes out 4 or 5 times a year. Sometimes it comes out 10 times a year. And if you get that, awesome. But yeah, wait a little while, kind of catch up on the reading all at the same time. So you kind of get the whole story instead of just little, one issue out of every couple of months. But I quickly jump up, back on board. So it's been one of those series. I've just been, it is my Usagi Yojimbo. If that gives you kind of, if that gives Ed you any kind of thing, that's kind of how I look at it. It's that long going series that I have stuck with, and I tell everybody about, and I'm like, you got to check it out, even for a little bit. Just try it. If you don't like it, great. Sorry, at least you gave it a shot. So, but it is one of those things. I will talk about Savage Dragon till my dying breath. So not exactly a review or anything like that, but just having read 262, earlier this week, it came out last week, and it just sort of reminded me because there hadn't been an issue in a long time, and there's multiple issues coming out here on in the next couple of months. He's got caught back up and stuff like that. So I'm all excited about it now. So, so that's about it. All right. So we've been on about 2 hours, so let's go ahead and wrap things up here. I'm not sure how to wrap this thing up. We'll new things. So come by the website. Well, that's obviously the same. Comicaddiction.net. That's where you can find the website. It's where you can find all the podcasts and things like that. And who knows, you might find old podcasts and things like that, like Boom Addiction. There's one.
The Evangeline podcast.
Yeah, all of those things are in the feed, so definitely go back and check all that stuff out. You can email the show. You can do that by email. It's at comicbookaddict@gmail.com. That'll be in the show notes. That has been the podcast, or that has been the email address for this podcast since the very beginning. So that email still runs strong with press releases from publishers that I cannot get to I don't do press releases anymore. Quit sending them. So still get stuff there. So yeah, comicbookaddict@gmail.com. You can follow the show, the site at on Twitter at Comic Addiction. You can follow Ed at Teal Productions. You can follow me at Chris Parton. Those are the best ways to get in contact with us all the time. You can DM both of us or just tweet at us. That'll be fine. We'll love talking about comics and recommendations and stuff like that. We still have the Fans of Boom Studios Facebook page. That is not going away or anything like that. So don't think we're changing that kind of stuff. So that is still there. Ed is still running that and posting stuff. So be sure to come over there and join that. There is not a Comic Addict there is a Comic Edition page, but I'm not using it right now. But if you do find it on Facebook or you've already liked it from years back or whatever like that, thank you. You don't have to follow that. There's nothing really that's going to be over there. I'll probably post the episodes and stuff once we get those posted, but that'll be about it.
Do come to the forums at just another fanboy.freeforums.net. There is a Comic Addiction page there for you to comment on as the episodes are posted there, as well as other podcasts, other things to talk about, musical musings, book blab, cinematic chattering are just some of the forums there. So come on by. There's plenty of room to sit down and give your thoughts on any number of things.
Cool. Yeah, definitely do that. I know Steven's really trying to build a community over there, and that is a good place. Forums, for a large group of us, forums were the place to be, where we got to sort of air out everything.
Yeah, and that's where we started this.
That's where a lot of us met.
This online fandom was forums back 15 or so years ago.
So that's where Comic Addiction got started. It's because of those forums and those podcasts I learned about there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. So anything else?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, everybody, I appreciate you listening. If you were listening to us on the podcast, if you are watching the video show, thank you for watching the video show. You can always come and join us live on Thursdays. We try and get it about 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, depending on how long Ed and I like to chat about wrestling during the pre-show. Depends on what happened. You never know. And then that'll bleed over into the live show too. So, but yeah, come by the YouTube channel. That's still the same thing as the Boom Addiction. It's just all the same thing. All of the links and stuff like that are over on comicaddiction.net. Wow. So you can, if you forget what anything is, at least remember that website and all the links are there. But yeah, this is episode 138. Next week we're gonna shoot for 139. That sounds like a good number. I like these legacy numbers. That's always makes me feel good. So Ed, as always, thank you for joining me.
Yes, sir.
And we will catch all of you next week. Goodbye.
Ciao.
I should have told Doug live on the show. Thanks for joining us. Doug is in the mythical third chair. So, Doug, yes, but seriously, thanks for sitting with us. So, maybe one of these days we should get Doug on the show.
Maybe so.
Doug, would you like to be on the show one of these days? If you're still with us. If not, because that'd be cool. So hold on. Thank you all for watching us. If you're still watching us, we're going to end the broadcast now, and we'll catch you later. Bye.